So good morning, everyone. I hope that everyone can hear us or see us as well. So thank you, Kiara, for confirming that you can at least hear me, okay? So today we are going to have our CADS Student Research Showcase, which is a big event for our center. So Center for Applied Data Science CADS at WSSU is a relatively new center. We are started in 2020, and this is our second year. And we accomplished so much during the last 2 years. And this is going to be our second student research showcase event, which we are very fortunate to run it from our own center now. So if I can show a little bit, there are a lot of events. So this is a hybrid event. So there are a lot of people in our center attending this event. And also those of you who are joining from Zoom, you get to enjoy the showcase as well. So thank you again for all of you to joining. There are a couple of issues that, thing that I need to mention, that if you are joining from this room, please do not join in Zoom, so that we do not, if you join in Zoom from this room, there will be echo and we couldn't hear you. So please do not join from Zoom in this room. And if you are a student and would like to get some credits for your attendance over here, there is a sign-up sheet in the beginning. So please write down your name. If you are joining from Zoom and a student would like to get some credit, please type your name in the chat box. We'll go through the messages later, and then we'll give you the right credit. So we are going to go through each and every presentation, and after each presentation there will be 2-minute question and answering time. So please feel free to ask the question, and all the presenters are actually live over here, so they will be listening to your question and answer your question as well. I guess that's about it that we need to go through. So first of all, we are going to show you guys a promo, which is based on our center and its activities, its accomplishment for the last 1 or 2 years. And then our students who are the research assistant working in CADS for the last 1 year, or some of them are actually working for the last 2 years, they will be actually presenting their research as well. Thank you everyone for enjoying this. And then now we have our the agenda today. So at the beginning, the first presenter is going to be Tonya McInnis, and her research advisor is Dr. Steve Aragon, who is an associate professor of healthcare management. And her presentation is titled as the effects of patient-centered physical behavior on minority and economically disadvantaged female experience of care.
Good morning. I am Tonya K. McInnis, MHA candidate and CADS graduate research assistant. It is my pleasure to share with you the effects of patient-centered physician behaviors on minority and economically disadvantaged females' experience of care. First, I would like to thank the University of North Carolina and Winston-Salem State University's Center for Applied Data Science for funding my research assistantship. As well, I would like to thank Dr. Aragon for his substantial support as my research mentor. And to you, I thank you for your time and your presence. The purpose of my research was to determine the effects of patient-centered physician behaviors of friendliness, concern, participative decision-making, and informativeness on patients' experience of care, to develop a model to predict female patients' experience of care, and to cross-validate the results with a real-world case study and the primary provider theory. Research questions of: do patient-centered physician behaviors positively influence patients' experience of care? What model predicts female clinic experience of care? Do the model results parallel with the case study results, and are the results consistent with the prediction of the primary provider theory? Methods were guided by the primary provider theory, a random sample of 744 minority and economically disadvantaged female clinic patients, multiple regression, case study comparison, hypotheses were tested at an alpha of 0.05 and IRB approval. Results show that physician patient-centered behaviors all significantly influence patients' experience of care, with the physician's concern for the patient being the greatest factor at 26%, followed by friendliness at 21%, informativeness at 18%, and participative decision-making at 14%. Explaining 53% of its variance, the model below significantly predicts female minorities' patients' experience of care. Post hoc, this study was powered at 99%. Case study comparison details a 33-year-old African-American male presented to the emergency department with a swollen right ankle and pain following a compound fracture and surgery. Patient's experience of care was measured in the terms of the physician's friendliness, concern, participative decision-making, and informativeness on a scale of 1 to 5, where the 1 indicated to be very poor and 5 very good. The patient's ratings of the physician was weighted at a mean score of 1, or very poor. Physician did not establish trust with the patient or family. Physician did not address patient's concerns, questions, or manage patient's pain. Patient requested a different physician. The hospital provided a new physician, and the patient's rating of the second physician resulted in a weighted mean score of 5 or very good. Patient received patient-centered care and recovered well. The patient-centered physician behaviors of friendliness, concern, participative decision-making, and informativeness positively and significantly influence minority, female, and economically disadvantaged patients' experience of care. Taken together, these effects significantly predicted female patients' experience of care. Case study highlighted the importance of patient-centered physicians' behaviors of friendliness, concern, participative decision-making, and informativeness to African American female patients. The results of the regression was consistent with the prediction of the primary provider theory. This concludes my presentation, and I will be delighted to take any of your questions.
Thank you very much, Tonya, for your informative presentation. So if you have any question, you can either say to the live audience, you can just ask the question. Tonya is here who can answer the question. And if you are joining from Zoom, feel free to type the question in your chat box. We are monitoring the chat box.
Well, let me just make a statement. I chose
You come over here so that
this population because I'm concerned about the needs of minorities and the poor. So that was my greatest concern. And as you can see, patient-centeredness does affect patients' experience of care. We look at this as being a way to close the gap for health disparities. And for just one, if we could just get one, then we have succeeded that goal. It's a pleasure being with you today.
you have a question. Can you come over here
Oh, so they can
to ask the question?
so
Yeah.
they can hear me.
Yeah.
I understand now.
Dr. Keith, please come over here. We have a,
Yes. I have a question about the rate at which African-American women die while giving birth being 237% higher than for Caucasian women. And I wanted to know if you could extend these studies to help African-American women not die while they're giving childbirth.
Sure. Yes, that's a great point. Great insight. Exactly. So the goal is that if patient-centered care can be implemented into the medical treatment, patients do better. Patients feel better. Patients want to talk when they feel the physician is friendly, concerned about them, allow them to participate in the decision-making. So we want to make sure that patient-centered care is available to everyone, despite their economic disadvantages. Anything else?
well, thank you, Tonya. Thank you so much for your nice presentation and also handling the question.
All right, thank you.
So thank you. We are going to, there is no question from the chat. Yeah, please join me to give her a hand. Thank you again, Tonya, and Dr. Aragon as well, her research mentor. So we are going to move on with the second presentation, which is the student's name is Anthony Smith, who is an undergraduate student in the Department of Computer Science. His research mentor is Dr. Mustafa Fuad, who is a professor in computer science, and the research titled as Sensing the Walking Velocity of a Person by Using Mobile Devices. So
hi, my name is Anthony Smith, and our project was on sensing the walking velocity of a person by using mobile devices. And my CADS mentor was Dr. Fuad. So some research overview. The goal of the research was to determine a person's walking speed by using a number of steps. A mobile application was developed to investigate how to determine a person's walking speed. The application used the accelerometer sensor and the mobile device to detect steps and then compute the velocity. The device was in 3 different positions, and it was determined that the positioning of the mobile device played a significant role in the accuracy. Some background and related words. For this research, a mobile device sensor would be used, which would detect steps. The sensor that was selected for this research was the accelerometer. A accelerometer sensor provides information and the user motion and activity. There have been similar work to test the accelerometer sensor and detect steps. However, the accuracy of using these steps Hi, my name is Anthony Smith, and my project was on sensing the walking velocity of a person by using mobile devices. And my CADS mentor was Dr. Fuad. So some research overview. The goal of the research was to determine a person's walking speed by using a number of steps. A mobile application was developed to investigate how to determine a person's walking speed. The application used the accelerometer sensor and the mobile device to detect steps and then compute the velocity. The device was in 3 different positions, and it was determined that the positioning of the mobile device played a significant role in the accuracy. So background and related words. For this research, a mobile device sensor would be used, which would detect steps. The sensor that was selected for this research was the accelerometer. A accelerometer sensor provides information and the user motion and activity. There have been similar work to test the accelerometer sensor in detecting steps. However, the accuracy of using these steps to calculate the velocity was not studied. The difference between this research and similar work is that the way these steps were counted compared to the data from the accelerometer. So methodology. An Android app was developed which ran on a Samsung Galaxy Tablet S device for the experiment. Steps detected by using the accelerometer by using the following algorithm. We got the X, Y, and Z accelerations from the accelerometer, calculate the magnitude of the movement by using the magnitude formula, calculate the change of magnitude from the last measurement. If the change of the magnitude is beyond a certain threshold, count the change of counted as a change of acceleration as one step. So more about the methodology. So we first measured out a 10 feet straight line. The 3 device positionings were used. So the first positioning was in the front right pants pocket. The second position was held in the right hand, and the third position was stored in the backpack. The steps were first manually counted and then recorded and then counted with the developed app. Comparisons were made between the manually counted and the application counted steps. Each experiment was completed 10 times for each device position, and then the average was taken. So the results was the front pants pocket location gave the most accurate result. The 2 other device positions gave reasonably accurate results. For the front pants pocket, the application steps were 5.5 steps, while the manually counted steps were 5.1. For the other 2 device positions, the application steps was 2.4 and 2.6, and the physical steps were 5 each. Based on these results, we was able to successfully complete the goal of calculating the velocity by using the steps counted. And here are my references, and thank you for listening to my presentation.
Thank you, Anthony, so much. So Anthony is actually, we're here in case we have a question for Anthony. Any question, anyone? Okay.
So any correlations how accurate, maybe like a Fitbit or Apple Watch or Samsung Watch, anything like that, as compared to your app or anything?
Can you come over here, Kaya? Because we also need to make sure that our virtual attendee can hear you as well.
Okay. I was just asking about his research in the correlation between the accuracy of the app versus like an Apple Watch, a Samsung Watch, or a Fitbit.
So with the accuracy, with only using one sensor, it's really dependent on like the positioning of that you have the device in your thing. So like an Apple Watch, it will be a little bit more accurate with like different positioning because it's using more than one sensor. But yeah, does that answer your question?
So like since it's like, you mean more than one sensor, like the thing that's on the back of it?
For detecting the steps, like actual detecting the steps, it's using more than one sensor. We only focus on like using one sensor, so it's kind of hard to make it more accurate for like in different positions.
Gotcha.
Does that answer your question?
Okay.
Thank you, Kaya and Anthony. Is there any other question? Okay, thank you very much. Please join me to give Anthony a hand. Thank you so much. So no question. I'm just monitoring the chat, and we acknowledge that there was a moment when we actually forgot to share the screen, but I'm sure that you are able to see right now. So we are moving on with our third presentation. Which is titled as Analyzing the Electrical Responses of Music on African Americans. The presenter is Timothy Pittman, who is an undergraduate student in the Department of Computer Science. And his research mentor is Dr. Tenille Presley, who is an associate professor of physics, and also Dr. Kaya Provost, who is the research associate of CADS.
Hello, my name is Timothy Pittman, and today I will be presenting my project titled Analyzing the Electrical Response of Music on African Americans. Music has always been an essential part of society because of its influence in entertainment and countless of other things. It has been proven to have an effect on our bodies in many ways, such as heart rate, blood pressure, and electrical response. Conductivity is defined as a measurement of electricity conducted by the skin. Someone's age and gender can affect their skin conductivity. There is a deficit in data sets regarding skin conductivity in African Americans, and also skin conductivity has a fixed voltage and an alternating current. EEG is an effective way to measure the brain's electrical response by accounting for fluctuations in voltage within neurons. EEG tends to have variations in voltage and a direct current. With all of our knowledge, we hypothesize that amongst all genres, the participant's favorite song will create the largest electrical response. With the data from our participants' skin conductivity, we will use Ohm's law to find the participant's alternating current. Ohm's law proves the object's electrical current is proportional to the voltage and the inverse of resistance. The equation for Ohm's law is voltage equals current times resistance. In our study, we had 19 participants, 9 were male and 10 were female, from the ages of 10 to 72. Each participant listened to 5 genres of music, such as gospel, rock, Afrobeats, neo-soul, and as well as their favorite song. We chose these specific genres because there's a deficit in studies that use music that is popular in African American culture. each participant's skin conductivity was evaluated using sensors that were placed on their fingertips. We then used the inverse of their skin conductivity and the constant voltage of 0.5 to find the current that was produced. The GSR and EEG data is correlated to predict how individuals will respond to specific genres of music. Each graph reflects the alternating current of our participants. Alternating current is the current that is found using Ohm's law. The first set of graphs represented our male and female participants, and the data is broken down into 60-second intervals. As you can see, the initial alternating current for both female and male participants is very high. At the end of the 2 minutes, the male favorite song had the highest alternating current. And you can also see that female participants had an overall higher alternating current. Our second set of graphs represented our participants that were younger and older than 40 years old. As you can see, our older participants had a higher alternating current. Both younger and older participants had a high initial alternating current. And at the end of the time, you can see that the younger participant's favorite song had the highest alternating current. Also, at the end of the music, gospel had the highest alternating current for our older participants. We obtained EEG data from 2 different participants. The figure on the left was a 57-year-old woman, and the person on the right was a 35-year-old man using frontal midline. As you can see at the 7-second mark, both of their voltages was equal to 1.99 microvolts. Conclude that both skin conductivity and EEG data can vary based on age, but they are both very useful techniques to account for the body's electrical response. Individuals over 40 experienced a reduction in skin conductivity alternating current in response to their favorite songs, while younger participants' current increased. Female participants had a higher alternating current than men. For our EEG data, it was observed that there was a matching voltage at 7 seconds of 1.99 microvolts for the frontal midline of male and female participants. For our future directions, we plan on enhancing the sample size to improve the data sets that we're using. We also plan on expanding the musical genres as well as increasing the amount of songs within each genre. And we plan on studying and further evaluating our EEG data that we found. It was founded by the UNC Research Opportunities Initiative.
Thank you very much, Tim, for the wonderful presentation in a very exciting subject. So Tim is here to answer any question, either from live or from chat as well. So yes, okay, I also have a question in chat. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, come on in, please.
Lovely presentation. I really enjoyed it. I think it's very interesting. One question is like the sample size. So what made you guys start with such a smaller sample size? Was it hard to just recruit?
Okay, so it takes a good little minute to actually take the skin conductivity of the participants. So from recruiting and actually having to sit and wait, it takes about 45 to an hour to get it done. So that's why we started at that sample size. But like I said, in the future directions, we plan on expanding to where we have hundreds of people that we can.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It would be really good, interesting to see it at a larger scale. I think it's a really interesting study. And the second question was for the EEG, for the 2 participants that you kind of singled out, what made you choose those 2 to show their data?
So the EEG data was actually found externally. It was from an article. So
Okay.
What we did is we grabbed those 2 because the significance of them having the same microvolt reading at the 7-second mark. So we
Okay.
just pulled those two out, and then, with us not knowing them in like personally, it was one of the things that we could grab and then further evaluate when we went into the data set.
All right, well, awesome. We'll keep up the great work.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Simpson, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it is so ironic. During the COVID era, we have been doing so many collaborations with so many researcher students, but most of them I'm actually seeing for the first time. That's kind of like the pandemic, right? So Dr. Simpson, thank you for the wonderful question, team. Thank you very much for answering the question. Please join me to give, oh, sorry, I'm sorry, there is a question. Yeah, can I ask this one first? Yeah. So there is a question in the chat box which says that were all of the study participants African American?
So all of
So
the,
Tim, come over here.
so all of the, all of the participants that we collect data from regarding their skin conductivity readings were African American.
Okay, so Dr. Johnson, I hope that it answered your question. We have another question. Ms. Hierstrom.
Hi, I love the presentation. I love music. But is there any particular genre that will help that, I don't know if the study showed that helps to relax even though the brain activity to put you in a more mellow mood instead of another genre?
Right, so just through data, period, I'm almost positive that classical music is one of the ones that is highly studied. That's why our research is so important, because and a lot of times they don't study music outside of the classical realm of like that genre. So to answer your question, that's something that we're further looking into.
Good.
But something that definitely needs to be addressed.
I like for you to continue your work in that area, because I am on that higher percentile of the participants. And I just want to know, because I need to whoo sometimes. Thank you.
And then through our research, we're also kind of finding the correlations between mood and all kind of things so that we can bring it together and hopefully make a predictive model to where we can, state these with facts.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. And I want to thank Dr. Presley and Dr. Post for all the help that they've given me with this project.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much, team, and that your team, research team. Appreciate your hard work. So our next presenter is a team of 3 researchers actually. And again, I'll be meeting the whole team for the first time face to face. So Alexis, Bryant, Makayla Moore, and please excuse me, I'm saying your name not correctly, and Jonathan Ross, who are the students from Department of Mathematics, and their research mentor is Dr. Felicia Simpson, who is also here with us, who is the Associate Professor of Mathematics. And their study is titled as an examination of frailty as measured via deficit accumulation in older African-American adults with diabetics.
Good morning. Our research topic is an examination of frailty as measured via deficit accumulation in older African American adults with diabetes, an ancillary study to the Jackson Heart Study. My name is Alexis Bryant. I'm a junior mathematics major.
My name is Makayla Moore. I'm a junior mathematics major.
And my name is Jonathan Ross. I'm a sophomore mathematics major.
Our research advisor is Dr. Felicia Simpson. Accelerated biological aging. So you have chronological age and biological age. Chronological age is how long you've been alive, and biological age is how long or how your body feels, how old your body feels. So from the pictures, Jay-Z is chronologically older, but Lil Wayne is biologically older due to lifestyle factors, and lifestyle factors can determine how fast or how slow you biologically age.
Next, we would like to describe the motivation for our work. As we grow older, many of us occur multiple conditions and diseases associated with aging. The aging of the population, coupled with the epidemic of obesity, have led to a rapid increase in the number of older, obese individuals with diabetes. Diabetes and obesity are often described as accelerators of biological aging. Diabetes prevalence rates overall are projected to double by 2050. It is estimated that 13.2% of non-Hispanic blacks ages 20 or older have diabetes, and that they are almost twice as likely to have diabetes compared to non-Hispanic whites. Mortality is 1.5 times higher, and medical costs are more than 2 times higher for adult diabetics versus non-diabetics.
So how do we measure accelerated biological aging? There have been numerous attempts across decades to develop and validate measurable constructs of accelerated biological aging. These include definitions based on the following: routine clinical data, epigenetics, functional measures. One measurable construct of accelerated biological aging is frailty. Frailty is a state of increased vulnerability to adverse outcomes, particularly mortality. A fertility phenotype was proposed by Dr. Freed in 2001, suggesting that an individual is frail if he or she experiences the presence of 3 or more of the following 5 symptoms: shrinking, weakness, poor endurance, slowness, and low physical activity. Individuals with 1 or 2 characteristics were defined to be in an intermediate stage or pre-frail.
Frailty in African Americans. Frailty is more prevalent in African Americans than in majority whites. Disability and functional impairment are also more common in African Americans compared to whites. There is very limited information regarding frailty in African Americans with diabetes. Prior studies have demonstrated that frailty is a predictor of mortality and other adverse outcomes. However, the prevalence and consequences of frailty among African Americans who are overweight and obese with diabetes is not well described. There is no literature regarding using an augmentation deficit accumulation approach with additional measures thought to be more sensitive to the consequences of aging with obesity and/or type 2 diabetes to examine the prevalence of frailty in the African American community.
Another measurable construct of accelerated biological aging is deficit accumulation indices. Deficit accumulation indices have been developed to serve as a marker of how quickly an individual ages biologically. Deficit accumulation indices are sometimes referred to as frailty indices. Frailty indices are designed to be sensitive to and reflective of age-related trajectories across the many contributing mechanistic pathways. Deficits in health can be symptoms, sign, disease, and deficit accumulation indices are expressed as a ratio of the total deficit scores to the total number of deficits considered. The deficit accumulation frailty index is calculated as total of deficit scores over the total number of deficits considered. For example, if the total deficit scores is 10 and there are 40 deficits considered in total, the frailty index score of 10 over 40 equals 0.25.
Our objectives for this study are: using data from the Jackson Heart Study, a large longitudinal study, we will examine prevalence of frailty using the deficit accumulation approach in older African Americans with type 2 diabetes. The frailty index will be modeled on the Action for Health and Diabetes trial. The index includes items based on self-report responses and clinical measurements. The index also includes additional measures thought to be more sensitive to the consequences of aging with obesity and/or type 2 diabetes. The data we will be using to conduct our analysis comes from the Jackson Heart Study. The Jackson Heart Study, initiated in 1998, is a longitudinal study of genetic and environmental risk factors associated with the disproportionate burden of cardiovascular disease, especially high blood pressure, heart failure, and stroke. It was a prospective study involving more than 5,300 participants aged 35 to 84 in Jackson, Mississippi. Jackson Heart Study participants received 3 back-to-back clinical examinations. Data collection consisted of a baseline and follow-up exam, which included medical history, physical exam, blood, urine analysis, and interview questions on physical activity, stress, etc.
For our statistical analysis plan for this work, we will construct a deficit accumulation frailty index for the Jackson Heart Study participants, modeled after a previous frailty index applied to the look-ahead trial. We will describe the cohort and characterize the frailty status distribution at baseline. Baseline characteristics among subgroups based on these variables will be compared using chi-square tests and analyses of variance. To assess the predictive validity of the frailty measure, we will evaluate the association of frailty status, all-cause mortality, and other adverse outcomes, ascertained in a prospective follow-up using Cox proportional hazards models and tests of the assumptions for proportional hazards. In addition, we will assess whether the 3 frailty groups predict adverse outcomes significantly different from each other using a ranked test for censored survival data.
Now we would like to discuss our main hypotheses and study questions. Our first study question: among older African Americans with diabetes, evaluate the differences in the frailty index scores among subgroups based on the traditional risk factors for aging. We hypothesize that obese individuals, smokers, and those with poorer diabetes control, longer duration of diabetes, and hypertension will have significantly higher mean frailty index scores than those without these characteristics.
Study question 2. Among older African Americans with diabetes, evaluate the association between frailty and adverse outcome according to Cox regression models. We hypothesize that increases level of frailty will be associated with the increases in adverse outcomes.
Study question 3. Are these findings similar across participants grouped by BMI status and other lifestyle factors? We hypothesize that the associations described above will vary among subgroups of participants based on baseline BMI. We are currently building our frailty index using the data from the Jackson Heart Study. Once we're finished with that, we'll begin our analyses.
We would like to acknowledge the University of North Carolina Research Opportunities Initiative Award, Winston-Salem State University Center for Applied Data Science.
Questions?
Thank you, Alexis, Jonathan, and Makayla. So they are actually available over here to take any question if you do have. I don't see anything in the chat, so if there is a live question from the audience. So they are actually our newest team. They just joined, like, the researcher and the fellow, Dr. Simpson, actually joined like only 3 or 4 months ago to the CADS team. So I'm so excited to see that they have, actually managed to make that much progress within such a short period of time, and looking forward to some exciting results during this summer. Thank you, guys. Thank you all so much. Oh, there is a question. Okay. There is a question actually from Dr. Priestley. With blood glucose and insulin resistance being key factors for T2DM, how will they be factored into the study? And Dr. Simpson, feel free to jump in.
I'm gonna jump in here.
Yeah.
Actually, insulin is one of the components of the index. So one of the questions, one of the deficits is whether or not an individual uses insulin. And based on the deficit itself, the scores are based on severity. So each question is given a score. So whether the person is, if the person is doing well, that score is going to be closer to 0 if they're doing not so well in that answer. So if they're using, let's say, insulin, so it'll be whether or not an individual is using insulin. They'll get a score of 1 if they are, a score of 0 if they're not. So we do include that question as a deficit in our frailty index, if that answers your question. And was that, I didn't have a question. Yes, and also glucose is another question.
So once we have the frailty index, how do we plan to use that frailty index in the healthcare system to impact the outcomes for patients?
Right, so previous work on this index, if you guys ever want to look it up, the idea is to use this as a measure, right? To show like how an individual is aging at a faster rate, because what we found is that using this index, we can measure aging. So we're hoping to see is like, how can we slow this down? And so we're saying like maybe a physician could say, okay, lifestyle factors like such as lowering caloric intake, increasing physical activity. Okay, using this as to capture whether or not an individual is aging at a faster rate. So let's say the doctor says, hey, you know what, let's increase your physical activity. Let's lower your caloric intake. After all, let's measure you again. And then let's see if you have less deficits.
So you want this to go like name?
Yeah, we do.
Like the factor. That okay, good. Okay.
Thank you for
well, thank you so much. Thank you all. Okay. We need to move on to our next presentation. Which is titled that Exploring Important Spatial Justice Variables Across Forsyth County in North Carolina Using Machine Learning Techniques. The presenter is Raj Poudyel. I'm sure that I'm not saying your last name correctly. He's here with us. He's an undergraduate student in the Department of Computer Science, and his research mentor is Dr. Russell Smith, Professor of Geography, and myself, Dr. Debzani Dev, Associate Professor of Computer Science.
Hi, everybody. This is Raj Poudyel, currently a student in Winston-Salem State University, a senior in computer science major, minor in data science at senior level. And today I'm going to present our research, which is being conducted under the mentorship of Dr. Russell Smith, who is a professor of geography in Winston-Salem State University, and who is also faculty lead for the Spatial Justice Studio at Center for Design Innovation, and Dr. Debzani Dev, who is an associate professor of computer science in Winston-Salem State University, and also founding director for this Center for Applied Data Science, which is in short CADS. And the title of our research is Exploring Important Spatial Justice Variables Across Forsyth County in North Carolina Using Machine Learning Techniques. And this research is supported by UNC Research Opportunities Initiative Award, Winston-Salem State University Center for Applied Data Science. And our research is based on spatial justice or injustice in our communities. So I feel like it is worth to define something about spatial justice. So what is spatial justice? Spatial justice is the fair and equitable distribution of available resources across a variety of geographic landscapes. So different people, they have different views for spatial justice. So according to Rocco, spatial justice refers to general access to public goods, basic services, cultural goods, economic opportunity, and healthy environments. This research explores the issue of spatial justice through the development of Spatial Justice Index, that is SJI. To date, most work associated with spatial justice has been qualitative and case study based, but in this research, the Spatial Justice Index will begin to be created by quantitatively exploring geographic attributes like land uses, distance to parks, schools, etc. of census tracts in an effort to apply the concept of spatial justice industries to North Carolina communities. The data set and methodology we have used in our project. So we collected 38 geographic and spatial features, and which we identified and collect. And these data sets related to these 38 features have been collected across 93 metropolitan census tracts and 77 urban census tracts in Forsyth County in North Carolina. And some of these 38 geographic and special features, I'm going to go over them, like gas stations, fire stations, area cupboard, emergency facility, food desert, limited broadband, public water supply, public schools, medical facilities, likewise, distance to nearest medical facility and distance to nearest hazardous waste site. So all these 38 geographic and special features have been mentioned here. And to create a model or to fit a model, we selected economic mobility as dependent variable, and using these 38 features, data sets from these 38 features, we try to fit this economic mobility as our model. And let me introduce something about economic mobility. So what is economic mobility? Economic mobility is the ability of an individual, family, or some other group to improve their economic status. Its value is supposed to lie between 0 and 1. The higher the number, the greater the percentage we can move up the economic ladder. And here we fitted 2 linear regression models, one based on the metropolitan census tracts and the other based on the urban census tracts, and that capture the relationship between the economic mobility and the 38 special features. So based on the results and the statistical significance of the features, the most correlated set of features have been identified. And here we have 2 tables. So the first table shows the R-squared scores, and the second table shows the statistically significant features at 0.05 level. So the table 1, the first table above, shows that using all 38 attributes, the highest R-squared score was achieved with economic mobility based on the metropolitan census tracts with 74.1%. And with the economic mobility based on the urban census tracts, we obtain only 69.9% as R-squared score. And in the second table, table number 2, out of 38 features included in the models, the special variables that are statistically significant at 0.05 level to economic mobility based on metropolitan census tracts and based on urban census tracts have been shown here. So the statistically significant features based on metropolitan census tracts at 0.05 labels are fire stations, limited broadband, total jobs, percentage non-white population, percentage tree coverage. And similarly, based on the urban census tracts, these are the statistically significant features: fire stations, law enforcement, percentage non-white populations, nearest red line area. And if we compare these two, we can see fire stations and percentage non-white populations are common in both. So we hope that these findings will provide some insight in developing spatial justice index by which multiple geographics can be compared and especially injustices can be identified, explored, and rectified to create neighborhoods that are more fair and equitable and just. So, and the references, different references we have used for these projects are mentioned here. And some of these are like United States Census Bureau, United States Environmental Protection Agency, NC1 map, and so on. And this is the end of my presentation for the project. And if you have any questions, let me know. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Raj. And Dr. Smith, I can see is also here. So if you have any question, they are here to answer. Raj, go ahead.
Hi, this is Raj Poudyel, and if you guys have any questions, let me know. Like, we are here to answer your questions. Thank you.
Good presentation, Raj.
Thank you. And if you guys
Thank
don't
you.
have like any questions, let me give you some information about our project. Like, this is our one of a small project. Like, based on this project, we are trying to develop like some kind of index called Special Justice Index. And for that Special Justice Index, we are trying to collect the very important statistically significant features from different types of projects. Like one of these this is the small project with some small data set. But our final goal is to try to collect the various statistically significant special features, and using those features and with some techniques and using the machine learning techniques, we are trying to create a special justice index. And we hope that would help to make our communities, like which we consider as injustice, to be fair, equitable, and just in our futures. So thank you.
Jill, Dr. Keith, can you come on over here? I don't know whether the microphone is going to pick up.
Probably not. So long term, will this affect, I'm trying to get into the camera. Will this affect policy? Is that the goal, that long term it'll affect policy so that we don't have these problems in the future?
Yeah, we hope so. Like, we are trying to build, right? And we hope that would be considered, because we are trying to collect the important features, right? That would have a great effect on those features. So I hope, we hope, if we create those and if we test it and if we employ it, and we hope that would work. So this is our goal. Thank you for the question.
Thank you very much, Dr. Keith, for asking the question, and Raj and Dr. Smith for joining here and for the great presentation. Now, sorry. Oh, there is a question in the chat. Okay. Did your findings address rental properties versus single family home in urban studies? Did you differentiate between? I don't believe so, right?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think we use owner occupied housing. It's something that we could potentially add to the future as a share of within each census tract. The amount of
General
homes that are
features.
owner occupied versus rental. So thank you.
Yeah, right now we do not have differentiate between, or we are not collecting them separately, but in future, yeah. This project has so many dimensions, and every time we present it somewhere, we do actually have one journal paper and one conference paper published out of it. And Dr. Keith, as you mentioned, policy, we actually did have some policy based on our data set analysis as well. But again, this is a multi-dimensional project, so everything is being added up. So I know that we are over the time, so please be here. Thank you, Raj. Thank you, Dr. Smith, a lot. Thank you. So our last presentation is titled as Pathforming of Healthcare Practitioners in an indoor space using mobile crowd sensing. The presenter is Brixx-John Garcia Panlaqui. So, and he is a graduate student in the Department of Computer Science. This is actually his master's thesis project as well. His mentor is Dr. Mustafa Fuad, Professor of Computer Science, and myself, Dr. Debzani Dev, Associate Professor of Computer Science. And our research associate, Charles Miguel, is also helping him, who is a research associate of the CADS team.
Hi everyone, my name is Brixx-John Garcia Panlaqui, a graduate student from the Computer Science Department, and my research topic is pathforming of healthcare practitioners in an indoor space using mobile crowd sensing, and my advisors are Dr. Deb and Dr. Fuad. So there are many causes of waste in the U.S. healthcare system, and some of it is being associated with inefficiency, especially in pro bono healthcare clinics where labor demand exceeds supply, there are limited resources, and student practitioners provide patient care. And one proposed solution is clinic layout optimization, where optimizing the movement of practitioners and the layout of the indoor space can potentially increase time with patients and also improve provided care. And the goal of our research is to study and analyze methods for identifying mobility patterns automatically rather than manually. And to do this, we utilize Bluetooth Received Signal Strength Indicator, or RSSI data, which consists of measurements of Bluetooth connection strength between devices. And our research question is, can a mobile crowd sensing based approach utilizing Bluetooth and RSSI be used to visualize movement in an indoor space with relative accuracy? And our goals are to develop algorithms that can use RSSI data to identify and create visualizations of movement across Bluetooth-enabled stationary nodes. And we also want to determine if our approaches are generalizable, so if they can work across other cases or other indoor environments. And similar to the healthcare clinic, which is an indoor environment, our research is also conducted inside of an indoor space. And the differences from our research, from the previous works, is that it utilizes mobile devices instead of specialized beacons. As far as our data is concerned, we don't reconfigure our data into specific semantics or make it undergo query processing. And lastly, we only look at the time series and the RSSI values only. And as part of our RSSI-based mobility detection approach, there are two parts. The first part consists of gathering RSSI data from an idle mobile device at marked locations. So basically, a mobile device will be motionless at a single location, while the stationary devices placed around the indoor space will obtain the RSSI data from the mobile device for a certain amount of time. And after the experiments, the RSSI values at each timestamp in the data set will be converted to a radius for each stationary device, which would, in the visualization, it will create a circle surrounding the stationary device. And the center of the area of trilateration, in other words, that's the area of intersection for all circles for each stationary device, will be the predicted location. And for the second part of our approach, involves gathering data while a volunteer takes the mobile device and moves in real time. So the first algorithm will take the approach from the first part with the center of the area of trilateration, and it will combine those locations to form a path. Meanwhile, there will be a second algorithm that will use vectors instead. These vectors will indicate a device's movement, and when combined, these vectors will form a sequence of stationary device proximities, and these will indicate a specific path as well. So here's an example of our data set. Once all the data files from the stationary devices are aggregated and combined. In our data set, it shows device ID, date, time, and then the RSSI for each of the three stationary devices. However, we only use time and RSSI data for our algorithms as specified previously. So as part of our approach for predicting locations, here are two example instances where the predicted location was close to the actual location. And so in the visualizations, the orange points represent the actual location, while the green points are the predicted location. And as you can see in our two examples here, the green point, the predicted location, was actually close to the actual location. For the experiments involving the device moving in real time, one of the paths involved the volunteer moving from S1 to S3 to S2 back to S1. And the algorithm was able to predict that path based on the data set. The small orange points indicated the predicted locations. The dark part of the line indicates the start of the path, and as the color of the line starts to brighten, it shows the progression of the path until the end. For algorithm 2, this algorithm shows a visual of arrows from one stationary device to another. And the number next to the arrows represent the number of vectors indicating movement away from one device and towards the other. And that's shown in the output right here. The first line of the output shows that there was a count of 8 vectors, indicating that the device moved away from S1 towards S2. Then followed by a count of 7 vectors where the device moved away from S1 towards S3. Then a count of 5 vectors indicating that the device moved away from S3 to S1, and then lastly a count of 8 vectors where the device moved away from S2 to S1. And afterwards, the output shows a sequence of stationary device proximities denoting a path based on these vectors. So it shows the path of the device from S1 to S2 to S3 to S2 and then back to S1. From our results, we showed the potential of modeling movement in an indoor space. When predicting single locations, the predictions were pretty close to the actual locations. When it came to predicting paths, both algorithms were able to identify and visualize the correct path. Moving forward, we want to further optimize and tune the algorithms, especially in the case of generalizability, where we can work with more stationary devices or larger indoor spaces. And also, we want to work on improving the detection of RSSI data, where the data won't be affected by the noisy environment, and also making sure that each of the stationary devices were in sync when gathering RSSI data. And before we end, this research was supported by the UNC Research Opportunities Initiative Award, which lasts from 2020 to 2023, and also our National Science Foundation or NSF grant. And that is all. Thank you so much, and any questions?
Thank you very much, Brixx, for the wonderful presentation. So Brixx is here to take any question. So in the chat box, please feel free to put your question, or from the live audience if there is any. Okay, then. Thank you so much. Join me to give Brixx and the team again another round of applause. So that's actually our last presentation today. So thank you so much, all of you, for joining the Zoom attendee. And of course, the live attendance over here. We have about 25 to 30 people there coming and going, but we have a very vibrant audience over here, asked a lot of questions. So I want to thank you all for coming and attending the event. A special thanks for all the student presenters. Without you guys, it wouldn't be possible. And it seems like an hour-long event. It's not that much to arrange, but all the student presenter, faculty mentor, and our team actually knows how much effort there has to be to make sure that everything is working together correctly. So again, I would really like to appreciate all the faculty mentor, the student researcher, our research associate, especially the Kaya and Charles, and also the graduate student, Brixx, Tonya, who has been working a couple of days to make this a successful event. So thank you so much all. I think